Good evening, brothers and sisters. Welcome to the Midnight Bible Study. I want to talk for a few moments about the power of prayer for healing, for physical healing, miraculous physical healing. And I want to tell a story that comes from Francis McNutt, who's the author of The Power to Heal. It's an old, rare book. As far as I know, it's an old book from many years ago. Maybe they actually may have republished it originally from the 1970s. But it's called The Power to Heal. He tells a story here. The context for this is that McNutt, author of the best-selling Healing, has been active in the healing ministry. He was active in the healing ministry for over 10 years. During this time, he would travel all over the United States, ministering to the sick and the crippled, and working directly with those in healing ministries. And one of the first priests to be involved in the Catholic Charismatic Renewal. He is on the advisory committee. I don't even know if he's alive anymore, but this is an old bio. But former BA from Harvard, MFA from Catholic University of America, PhD from the Aquinas Institute of Theology. Here's a little picture of him back in the 1970s. So anyway, this is a little story from his book. And the context for this is that they would go around and do what was called soaking prayer. They would have this prayer ministry. These groups of people would get around and they'd pray for for people who needed healing, miraculous healing. Sometimes they would see sometimes they would see miracles within minutes, like right before their very eyes. Other times it would take a while. Sometimes a lot more prayer time was needed for certain people. It could be hours. And it might take repeated prayer sessions over a period of time for certain people, and for various reasons we don't know what the difference is. But I want to tell you this one little story here about one instance that was miraculous, and a couple of points about it. This is a letter that was written a year after they had prayed for her. Here's what she said. She said, "I was born crippled and cross-eyed. After you prayed for me, my eyes became straighter, my back became straight, my left foot straighter, my left leg lengthened, the same as the right. I have no more limp. My legs are improving gradually. My heels used to stick out much more. My knees used to go forward much more. They're almost straight now. I lie flat on my back and try to make my toes meet, and they miss by about 4 inches, which is a great improvement." So that's just one story from this book. Just imagine being in someone who suffered their whole life with those kind of difficulties, and to have be prayed over and have that kind of improvement. That's obviously life-changing for her. Now, here's a couple of points that McNutt makes about prayer. He says there's a time element in most healing. Even in healings that seem instant, there is at least a period of minutes in which the change takes place. There's also an element in more or less power, more or less authority in me. For example, if the person praying is steeped in sin, that's going to affect their power. They may have a lot less power for their prayers being answered. He calls that being a wounded healer. And so, as prayer warriors, we need to do everything we can in order to go to confession and repent and avoid sin altogether. 100% all out, no holds barred avoidance of sin. And then prayer with the same intensity, all out prayer. I want to grow, he says, McNutt says, I want to grow closer in union with Christ, but this too is a process and takes time. So, that's going to vary from person to person, but in order for us to become more holy, it takes time. It could be a long time in some cases. I will learn to be patient. More time is often what we need to complete the healing. Now, there's another story, another example I know of a Protestant pastor who prayed for a young woman who is paralyzed in bed. He went and visited her every week for a year, and I forgot the guy's name. I've got his book handy, but I forgot his name. He visited her every day for a year, praying for her for an hour. So we're talking about 52 weeks a year, but it's about 52 hours of prayer stretched out over a year's time. And at the end of that year, she was healed. Miraculously, she was healed of being paralyzed. So that was a miraculous healing, but it also took diligence and patience and great love on the part of that pastor to have, faithfully and diligently done that. Over a period of a year. I mean, literally sitting with her for an hour, praying nonstop every week. So we don't know. We don't know how long how much prayer is going to be needed. But what we do know is that from the stories I've read, more and more is better. And if as McNutt talks about it, maybe in the beginning you don't want to pray as much over somebody, because if they see you in the beginning putting in a lot of time and getting no results, then they can lose faith and become frustrated. And so he says that maybe in the beginning pray, but not so long, maybe shorter sessions, and then when you see results, that's the time to kick it up to bigger, longer sessions. So there's also I've seen firsthand miracles from praying without the person even knowing what I'm up to, for the most part, and diligent every single day, not necessarily long prayers, just because that's an area where I need to grow. I'm not really good I'm learning how to pray longer prayers, but it's something I'm working on, is how to do that, but we can, prayer for a person who needs prayer remotely. We can pray for somebody that way as well. And also, something I've seen results with, which are phenomenal in my opinion, based on what I saw, is praying, not only praying, but also praying the healing scriptures from the Bible. Praying those and thanking God and Jesus for every one of them, and praying those for the person, those healing scriptures. That's something I've been doing, and saw some amazing results. So there you go. Those are some thoughts on prayer, the power to heal, from Francis McNutt, and a few personal thoughts. So God bless you, and good night from the Midnight Bible Study. God bless.